Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US tariffs unfair and unjust, says Minister Kirtivardan Singh, asserts Indian economy's strength and resilience to overcome the hard times. Prime Minister Modi to visit Japan on August 29th to participate in the 15th annual summit, focus on strengthening economic and strategic partnership. Iran says return of IAEA inspectors does not mark full resumption of cooperation with the UN nuclear watchdog, adds cooperation framework with the IAEA still under discussion. And Denmark summons US envoy over alleged covert influence operations in Greenland aimed to whip up opposition to Danish rule. Next level of investment and trade cooperation will be in focus during Prime Minister Modi's upcoming visit to Japan. Our next report looks at the robust partnership between the two economic powerhouses of Asia.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be on a two-day visit to Japan from 29 to 30th August. In Tokyo, Prime Minister will engage with his Japanese counterpart, Shigeru Ishiba, in the 15th India-Japan Annual Summit. While India and Japan share civilizational ties, economic cooperation forms the bedrock of their modern partnership. Prime Minister's visit is expected to give a new fillip to India-Japan economic relationship, particularly in the domain of trade, investment and cooperation in semiconductors and emerging technologies. The comprehensive economic partnership agreement between the two nations has significantly strengthened the bilateral trade, with over 1,400 Japanese companies operating in India and 11 industrial townships across 8 states hosting Japanese enterprises. Earlier on Wednesday, PM flagged off the e-Vitara, Suzuki's first made-in-India global strategic battery electric vehicle in Gujarat. These vehicles, made in India, will be exported to 100 countries. Expectations are high for Indian and Japanese businesses from Prime Minister Modi's visit.
When both our PMs meet, the key expectation is a roadmap for next-generation cooperation, especially in clean energy, digital technology, and supply chain security. With global uncertainties, both countries can set a model of democratic economic partnership. Strengthening defense and semiconductor collaboration will also be high on the agenda.
I believe the Japan-India partnership is necessity. Prime Minister Modi's visit will encourage more Japanese firms to collaborate with India.
India offers a young workforce and a large market, which supports Japan's economy. Together, our cooperation brings stability and prosperity.
Japan has been a key ally in India's economic growth. Foreign direct investment from Japan has exceeded $43 billion between 2000 and 2024, making it India's 5th largest source of foreign investment. India-Japan bilateral trade totaled $22.85 billion during financial year 23-24. Exports from Japan to India during this period were $17.69 billion and imports were $5.15 billion. Metro systems in Delhi, Ahmedabad, Bengaluru and Chennai and the upcoming Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail reflect the potential of India-Japan economic partnership. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Japan is expected to open up new exciting avenues of growth and investment. In an era of geopolitical uncertainties and tariff diplomacy, India and Japan show the roadmap for democracies to partner and thrive together. With camera person Shailendra Chauhan, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Tokyo.
So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit Japan from 29th to 30th of August. India and Japan are close economic and strategic partners. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh spoke to Indian Ambassador to Japan, C.B. George, on the significance of the Prime Minister's visit.
India's Ambassador to Japan, Ambassador C.B. George. Welcome to DD India, sir. What will be Prime Minister Modi's key engagements during this visit?
Thank you very much. When you look at India-Japan relationship, we have excellent relationship. We have a civilizational connect, we have a cultural connect. You go in this country, any part of the country, you will see that there is an India connect. And based on that solid foundation is that we have built our relationship. So, in this annual summit, what is it special? We have seen significant progress in our relationship in the last 10, 11 years in that relationship. It is special, it is strategic, it is global, and it is a real partnership. We have seen progress. So the leadership will review that progress and, of course, give a new roadmap to take that relationship to further higher levels.
There's a lot of excitement around the bullet train project that is taking shape in India with support from Japan. What can we expect? Will that also be the focus of conversations between the leaders?
See, there are several elements in this relationship. You know, as I mentioned, economic partnership is a very important part of our engagement. And there are other elements which have been building our relationship, infrastructure projects. So many Japanese companies have participated in various infrastructure projects in India. One of such projects is our MAHSR project. And we are making progress in that project. In 2027, we will have a train running on the Ahmedabad-Mumbai project.
Emerging technologies, semiconductor manufacturing and the supply chain is another focus area. Can we expect some progress in that domain as well in this visit?
See, when you look at our relationship, it is a quite comprehensive, very broad relationship, which involves several aspects. One, our traditional business engagement. There are other major elements in our relationship: semiconductors, quantum computing, critical technology, drones, robotics, space. There are so many areas where we are cooperating at every level. Semiconductor is a very important area. India is making so much progress in and investment in that area, and Japan is also doing it.
We understand they're also part of the Quad grouping. Although this is a bilateral visit, in strategic defense and developments, what could be the areas in focus?
We have seen that India and Japan have been working very closely in various plurilateral mechanisms. Both are members of G20. We participate, we actively engage in various plurilateral mechanisms, and one of that is Quad. And Quad is very important because four like-minded countries have to come together with a common vision for peace, stability, security, and prosperity in the region, and with concrete ideas. So we are making progress in that. And of course, these are the plurilateral engagement will also continue to be part of our engagement between India and Japan.
That was India's ambassador to Japan talking about Prime Minister's upcoming visit to Tokyo and the manner in which it will provide fresh momentum to the ties between India and Japan. With Team DD India, Shubhendu Ghosh in Tokyo, Japan.
The Confederation of Indian Industry is holding the 20th India-Africa Business Summit in New Delhi with participants from over 64 African nations. The summit was inaugurated by Union Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirtiwardhan Singh. Speaking to DD India, the minister said that India and Africa share deep historical ties and trade between both the regions has crossed $100 billion mark.
Africa has always been a trading partner for centuries. Traders from Surat, traders from Gujarat have always been following the trade winds, going to the African continent and vice versa. Our diaspora in Africa is quite large in number, and they're also well settled. They are well integrated into not only the social structure, not only in the political structure, but most importantly in the business environment. We have very important companies which are represented in Africa. We have very strong trade relations. Our bilateral trade with Africa has crossed the $100 billion mark and is going to continue to grow even faster, even at a faster pace now on.
Speaking on US tariff on India, the minister called it selective, unfair and unjust, adding that Indian economy is strong and resilient and it will sail through this temporary tide.
India has always actively been exploring other markets. It's true that the US has imposed very unjustified and unfair tariffs on us. The reasons, of course, which they say are very questionable. There are many other countries who are also supplementing their energy needs from the same part of the world we are doing, but they have not been imposed with such tariffs. So, of course, it is selective, it is unjustified, and it is unfair. But our economy, under the honorable leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, has grown to be the 4th largest economy in the world today, and we are very soon going to be the 3rd largest. Our economy is strong, our economy is resilient, and will definitely tide over this temporary disturbance that has come about in terms of tariff impositions.
Meanwhile, global trade expert and analyst Ajay Srivastav also called US tariffs as unfair targeting of India on account of its buying oil from Russia. He added Indian economy is growing at 6 to 7% annually, and in just few months' time, India can largely contain the impact of US tariffs.
Our exports are just 20% of Indian economy, and Indian market is very big. It absorbs 80% of Indian production, and there is scope for further absorption of this because Indian economy is growing at 6 to 7% annually. So it can happily absorb some of the shocks in these sectors. And second, great option is searching for other countries to divert some of the exports which we cannot export to the US. And for this, government is making an effort to expedite FTAs with this European Union. And we already signed an agreement with UK. So efforts are on to implement that quickly. A few more FTAs like with Peru and other countries are on the line. So with all these things, we hope that in a few months' time, we can largely contain the adverse impact of US tariffs.
Now, Americans' view of the US economy declined modestly in August as anxiety over a weakening job market grew for the 8th straight month. The Conference Board, a US non-profit research organization, said on Tuesday that its consumer confidence index ticked down 1.3 points to 97.4 in August, down from 98.7 in July. Concerns about price hikes due to President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs also persisted. On to Europe now. Trade between the EU and the US continues to be sputtering, even though the two sides recently signed a trade agreement, with Brussels agreeing to many of Washington's demands. Lars Holte is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin now on the story. Lars, what's behind these ongoing problems?
Thanks for having me. Yes, it's frustrating. It's been months now that US President Donald Trump has disrupted trade around the world by levying rather random tariffs on almost every country. Weeks of uncertainty followed. A few trade agreements were signed, even though agreement was a big word for what was often not much more than a memorandum of understanding. One of the major deals, though, was between the US and the EU, and it came under fire pretty much as soon as it was signed. Many in the European Union were upset that Brussels gave in to many of Washington's demands, including buying billions worth of fracked natural gas. But at least in Brussels, they were celebrating, certain to have a more regulated trade relationship with the US once again. But weeks later now, it turns out that's not the case at all. Initially, the agreement said the US would lower import tariffs, for example, on European cars from 27.5% down to 15%. Then it was unclear when that lowering would actually happen. And just last week, we found out it won't happen anytime soon, despite what the agreement said. And now President Trump points to a seemingly unrelated debate over taxes that might be behind the delay.
Okay, so where does that leave the EU? Will they end the digital taxes?
No, they won't. Brussels has made it very clear that it won't do any changes to the Digital Services Act or the Digital Markets Act. These days, that is not something we should take for granted. Canada has actually promised the US not to levy taxes on revenue that US online giants make in the country. And on the other hand, the UK has a 2% tax on such business. And that's still in effect, even though the country has signed a trade agreement with the Trump government. If indeed one day such taxes would go away, it might be because the OECD has long argued that digital taxes should not be levied by countries individually. That is, of course, due to the global reach of the internet and the difficulties even administrating such taxes. Rather, the OECD says there should be a global framework on how to assert taxes for multinationally operating companies. Now, that doesn't sound like something the Trump government would like either, of course. Meanwhile, the uncertainty in terms of US-EU trade remains, and weeks after an agreement was signed, it's actually unclear how the transatlantic trade relationship will look heading into the next, well, still 4 years.
Thank you, Lars, for all those updates. Lars Holter reporting from DW Berlin. You're watching Did India Live, still to come on the show. Germany approves voluntary 6-month military service amid high tensions between NATO and Russia. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh calls for strengthening India's cyber infrastructure, asserts future wars will be a combined play of technology, intelligence, economy and diplomacy. And India celebrates the festival of Ganesh Chaturthi with pomp and gaiety.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we decode India-France jet engine collaboration. We explain how the Agni 5 test reinforces peace through strength and how INS Himgiri showcases India's indigenous naval power. We also analyze Israel's Rampage missile and how it boosts Indian Air Force's precision strike edge, and why Indian Army Chief's visit to Algeria so important. Sharp insights, clear explanations, Defense Dynamics this Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. Denmark's foreign minister has summoned the top US diplomat in Copenhagen over intelligence reports alleging covert influence operations by the US citizens in Greenland that aim to whip up opposition to Danish rule, the ministry said on Wednesday. The minister did not disclose the identities of the Americans flagged in these intelligence reports. The US embassy in Copenhagen did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Let's now take a look at other stories making news across the world. Canada will extend its NATO mission in Latvia, Operation Reassurance, by 3 years, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced at a joint press conference in Riga with Latvian Prime Minister Evika Selina. With over 3,000 personnel deployed at sea, on land and in the air, Operation Reassurance is Canada's largest overseas NATO mission. It was launched in 2014 in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea. A cholera epidemic at a camp for Sudanese refugees in neighboring Chad killed 68 people since it broke out in late July, the Chad Health Ministry told media on Tuesday. Spain celebrated the annual La Tomatina festival on Wednesday, in which more than 22,000 people joined in the messy tomato fight. For 1 hour, tourists and residents swam in the tomato pulp and hurled tomatoes non-stop across Bunol's longest street. And members of the Venice Film Festival jury boarded a boat at the Venice Lido on the opening day of the festival that is set to feature Hollywood royalty and an international selection of auteurs. It comprises of 2 actors and 5 directors, including the American filmmaker Alexander Payne, who is this year's chair. Back to Europe. Germany is taking a decisive step to strengthen its defense. On Wednesday, the cabinet approved a draft bill introducing a voluntary 6-month military service aimed at bolstering national security amid concerns over Russia. The plan is designed to double the pool of trained reservists, currently about 1 lakh, and to encourage some volunteers to transition into active service. Significantly, the draft also leaves the door open to a possible return of compulsory enlistment, a policy Germany abandoned back in 2011. For years, Berlin has struggled to meet its troop targets. With this move, it signals a sharper focus on readiness and deterrence in a rapidly shifting security environment.
This growth must not be compromised. It is therefore clear that we have a mechanism in the law which states that if the numbers fall, if they are not sufficient to fill the increasing capacities that we will be building up in the coming years, and if this means that the target of 200,000 is in danger of not being achieved, then we will have to set the mechanism in motion. The cabinet will have to decide, and then there will have to be a parliamentary resolution. However, this is also necessary. I want to emphasize this again, because conscription was also repealed by law at the time. So a corresponding equivalent is needed for it to be reinstated.
Iran said on Wednesday that the return of International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) inspectors did not mark the full resumption of cooperation with the UN watchdog, adding that a final framework was still under discussion. Iran held talks on Tuesday with European powers seeking to avert a sanctions snapback, which they have threatened to impose under the moribund 2015 nuclear deal. The European trio, Britain, France, and Germany, parties to the landmark 2015 Iran nuclear deal, have threatened to trigger the accord's snapback mechanism by the end of August. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister, who attended the talks with Britain, France and Germany in Geneva, said on X that it was high time for the European trio to make the right choice and give diplomacy time and space. Tuesday's meeting was the second round of talks with European diplomats since the end of a 12-day war between Iran and Israel in June, triggered by an unprecedented Israeli surprise attack. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh asserted that India has never initiated aggression against anyone, but if challenged, India would respond strongly. He was addressing the plenary session at the 2-day tri-service dialogue on war, warfare and war fighting called Ran Samvad 2025 in Madhya Pradesh. Ran Samvad 2025 aims to enhance interaction, communication and cooperation among military communities on issues critical to war fighting. Emphasizing on the meaning of the event's name, Rajnath Singh said that Ran evokes the sense of battle and conflict, whereas Samvad refers to dialogue and discussion.
India has never been a nation that seeks war. We have never initiated aggression against anyone. However, the present geopolitical reality is quite different. Even though we do not harbor any aggressive intent, if someone challenges us, it becomes imperative that we respond with strength. To do so, we must continuously enhance our defense preparedness. This is why training, technological advancement, and a sustained dialogue with partners are of utmost importance for us.
The festival of Ganesh Chaturthi is being celebrated from today, marking the birth of Lord Ganesha, the remover of obstacles and the god of wisdom and prosperity. Special celebrations are taking place in Mumbai with lakhs of devotees thronging at the iconic Lal Bagh Cha Raja. For 10 days, it becomes the heart of Mumbai's celebrations, drawing devotees and visitors from across India and abroad. Devotees also thronged at the famous Siddhi Vinayak temple in Mumbai from early morning hours to offer prayers and perform darshan along with their loved ones on the occasion of Ganesh Chaturthi. Ganesh Chaturthi, which lasts 10 days, is marked by prayers, community celebrations, culminating in the Visarjan, where idols are immersed in water amid chants and music. This year, the Ganesh Visarjan will take place next Saturday, that is September 6th. President, Prime Minister of India wished everyone on the occasion of Ganesh Chaturthi. The Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the submission of a bid to host the Commonwealth Games 2030 in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. The decision also includes approval for signing the host collaboration agreement and providing grant in aid to the Gujarat government if the bid is successful. If awarded, Ahmedabad has been proposed as the host city, offering world-class stadiums, cutting-edge training facilities and a strong sporting culture. The city is home to the Narendra Modi Stadium, the largest cricket stadium in the world, which has already proven its capability by successfully hosting the 2023 ICC Cricket World Cup final. The 2030 Games are expected to see participation from 72 countries with thousands of athletes, coaches, technical officials, media personnel and tourists arriving in India. Taylor Swift fans in London expressed their excitement after the announcement of the pop star's engagement to American football player Travis Kelce on Wednesday. Swift and Kelce announced their engagement on social media on Tuesday. The engagement generated a huge reaction with more than 17 million likes on Instagram post by Tuesday afternoon. America's National Football League offered their congratulations. No wedding date has so far been announced. So that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.